So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. It's 7:03. You're going to see some people straggling in. It's important for everybody to keep yourself on mute while during this evening. If you do have questions in the evening, such as technical questions or logistics, you can hit up Laura Stone. You want to give a little wave, Laura. If you have questions for our authors, well, they would love to answer them, I'm sure. So you can go ahead and put them in the chat. This is how Monday Night Reading works. I created it because I have one foot in the fiction world and one foot in the nonfiction world. And one thing that my fiction authors always get to do that nonfiction authors never get to do is read from their books. And nonfiction authors, especially those who come through my workshop, have really good stories in their nonfiction books. And they also have important messages to share. So I decided to create Monday Night Reading, which is the first Monday of the month for most of the year except summer. And we use this as an opportunity to showcase published authors. Tonight, I'm so proud that it's Top 3 Book Workshop alums who are up tonight, who recently had books published. Susie deVille, who wrote this gorgeous book, Buoyant. The Entrepreneur's Guide to Becoming Wildly Successful, Creative, and Free. And Gina Cox, Dr. Gina Cox, Leading Inclusion. Drive change your employees can see and feel. By the way, already an award winner, just would really like to point that out. Starred review. Yeah, we don't play. Gina and Susie, they've got it. They've got it going on. So how this works is we're going to first talk to Susie. We'll have a little conversation after Laura introduces Susie. And then Susie will read from her book and we'll have a little follow-up conversation after that. This is a great opportunity for you to hear what inspired these authors and a little bit about their author journey. And then we'll shift to Gina who will go through the same process. And one thing I really want to point out is that in Top 3 Book Workshop, which is the community that Gina and Susie are a part of, we have a golden rule of no peer criticism. So it's important to acknowledge and follow that rule tonight. We do, however, love good positive feedback, and we do share the chat with our authors. So you'll see some Top 3 students in there writing down lines they like or sharing something positive as they go, and I hope you'll follow their lead and also share your thoughts with the authors. So we'll go ahead and get started. Laura, my Dean of Students for Top 3 Book Workshop, will you please introduce Miss Susie deVille?
Nothing could make me happier on this earth. Susie deVille is not French. She just lives with joie de vivre. Susie is a speaker, author, and founder and CEO of the Innovation and Creativity Institute, a coaching firm connecting entrepreneurs and business leaders to their innate capabilities, guiding them to lead from a place of creative confidence. Susie is a trained human behavioral specialist and entrepreneur coach who takes a multifaceted, whole brain approach to coaching. And by breaking the status quo and creating a wildly innovative methodology to build successful businesses, Susie is a sought-after enterprise expert. She's known for creating rebels out of entrepreneurs and leaders who yield lighter workloads and higher profits. Susie's book, Buoyant, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Becoming Wildly Successful, Creative, and Free, is available everywhere fine books are sold. And I'll put how you can connect with her in the chat.
Hey, Susie.
Thank you so much. Hey.
So this is your beautiful book. We love this book so much. It was such an honor to work with you on this book. I'd love for you to tell everybody, you know the drill, the fundamentals we talk about in workshop. Sure. Who is your reader? What is your core message to that reader? And what is your promise to them?
So I have written Buoyant for entrepreneurs and creators who are painfully stuck and riddled with self-doubt, who believe that the answer is more work, more productivity, and more discipline. And what they may not know is that the easier path is through accessing their unbridled, inspired creativity. And my core message is that to succeed as an entrepreneur and a creator, you don't need more strategy, more discipline, more productivity. you do need unbridled access to your inspired creativity. And my promise is that by the end of this book, you will have found your way back to your buoyant, creative self, and you will discover an easier path to success and freedom.
Woohoo. Yes. For my current cohort of workshop students, I hope you're impressed that Susie just rattled that off. No problem. This too can be you. Susie, why don't you set up the excerpt that you're going to be sharing tonight?
So I have chosen two different sections of the book. They both pertained to journaling. And the reason why I selected journaling sections is because since my book has been out, I have had some fascinating feedback from readers saying, I didn't think this world of creativity was for me. I just felt like when they were handing out artistic talent, I got skipped, and I never believed that I could cross over this threshold that you talk about, Susie, and access something inside of me that I never knew existed. And it's journaling that tends to be one of the easier paths into this portal for people. Because it feels like work, unfortunately, people tend to believe that it has value. So if I start out with making something, people are like, that's just stuff if you're retired or if you have time to kill. So it's an easier sell for me to sell people on journaling as a way in. But it has been fun to see people's reactions once they start to crack the book open and fill those blank pages. So the two sections that I'm going to share with you, one is called The Alchemical Power of Journaling. And this really helps you get to this place of where you can start to release anxiety, start to kind of call yourself home, and also really tap into your intuition, your imagination, and your ideation, as well as your problem solving ability. The second part is a story that I relay that is about my dad sharing his journal with me back in 1985. At the time, I had no idea the power that it would have on my life, as well as my perspective of my own power to create my future. And I actually have said journal, which was created in 1959, with me tonight. So we'll get started with part one, the alchemical power of journaling. No one wants to be under the piercing glare of judgment. The mere thought of it can make us cringe, and our fear of it can keep us small, invisible, hiding from vulnerability. The desire to avoid harsh judgment pushes us to strive to live and work in a place where there are no errors, no failures of any size or scope, no attempts that fizzle or fall flat. As a result, we can exist in a push me, pull you relationship with our own creativity. The ideas come, and for a moment or two, we'll begin to flesh them out in our minds. We'll start to explore their potential and maybe even take a step or two in action. Then the curtain of fear of judgment falls, and back we go into the stage wings, into darkness, out of view, out of action, and out of the zone of possibility. This anxiety weighs us down and locks us into place. If we routinely stop listening to and or acting on our ideas, we stop generating them. Frozen in place, we'll look to distraction, numbing out, or overdoing to release the pressure building within us. Creativity is like a rushing current. It wants to move. Dammed up, it becomes a toxic pond with swirls of algae blooms on its stagnant surface. Our stalwart defense against paralyzing inertia? A journal. Seemingly powerless and small next to our fear, a journal can transport us to the shores of safety and calm. By writing, sketching, painting, or collaging in our journals, we can turn the valve and release the river of our creativity. A journal is where we work things out, where we air our frustrations, worry, anger, pain. A place where we celebrate, exalt, express our joy. It's a protected zone where we can take risks, try on ideas, and search for connections and solutions. A journal is our atlas to the world of possibility. When we have a lock on a state of possibility, we find opportunities everywhere. In our journal, we work through our reluctance. We find our way out of being stuck, hacking through mental weeds. Once we finally begin to let go, we revel in the freedom a journal affords us. We can return to our natural state of being playful, willing to not know. Your journal will be one of many thresholds on your voyage. On one side is the world of the closed, unused book, the painful clinging to perfection that has kept you stuck, unwilling to try new ideas, explore. On the other is an opened book, pages filled, and the world of possibility and play. Your journal is your place to try on new ideas, take risks, make mistakes, think things through, navigate uncertainty, record insights and intuition, sketch to see, paste images of things that bring you joy, and purge your brain of tumbling thoughts that drain your focus and energy. Your journal is your portal of discovery. And that is part one. And so the second part, again, this is relaying a story that took place in 1985 and then again in 2010. And this is called Creating Your Future by Journaling. I was headed up the stairs in the stone lantern in July 1985. I was home from college on summer break, working at the shop. Dad stopped me as I was about to run to get a gift box for a package I was shipping out for a customer. I know how much you love paper, he said, smiling. Do you want to see the journal that I used when I first dreamed up the stone lantern? He held out his small brownish red ring-bound journal. I immediately knew how special, how important that little vinyl book was. As I leafed through it, he stood next to me, explaining its history and contents. I started this when I was at the business school at Harvard, he said. This notebook is where I mapped out each detail about the shop. I read the pages, feeling the transfer of knowledge into my hands, traveling up to my shoulders, and exciting my heart before settling into my brain. Everything was in that book, each detail of what he wanted to bring to life. He was passing a torch, a compendium of holy knowledge for my own journey. When Hawaiians greet one another with aloha, they are sharing a sacred breath they believe is the creation of life. Dad sharing his journal with me was a profound aloha moment, breathing his incredible passion, wisdom, creativity, and thinking into me. Decades later, when I was thinking through my idea for launching a real estate company during the Great Recession in 2010, I got a journal and started dreaming and recording each detail. I had to be precise, exceedingly thoughtful about each aspect, as I had scarce resources and one shot to get the plane into the air. Any forgotten detail could sink me. I sat for hours and hours with my journal during the weeks around Christmas. We'd had a big snowstorm, and I was grateful that my part of the world stood still during those planning days. I got clear on what I wanted to call into being, as well as on the precise details of the experience I wanted my firm to deliver. I had no conscious recollection of the contents of Dad's journal, nor of his sage advice from 25 years before. I came to learn later how indelible his journal was, how it was as much a part of my DNA as his eyes and flat feet. One afternoon, out of the blue, I had a flash of an image of that journal and that day at the foot of the stairs. I was immediately struck with a fierce zeal to find it. It had been over 3 years since Dad had died, and I wasn't sure if my brother-in-law, the manager of the shop, knew where Dad had kept it. Jim pointed me toward a corner of boxes of Dad's photographs, papers, and memorabilia. I dug in. In the last box, covered in decades of dust and grime, I saw the journal. When I picked it up, a shock of memories coursed through me. Snippets of our conversation, his smile, his explanations, his advice. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I sat on the floor, surrounded by all his things, and collapsed forward as if I'd taken a blow to the gut. I cried until I could no longer breathe. When I pulled myself together, I flipped back the cover and began reading, lightning into each cell. The journal I had made in 2010 was an eerie mirror of the journal in my hands. My journal had almost identical sections and headings, including the same level of detail in my desired customer experience, pro forma statements, people to approach for advice, design of the office space, and logo and branding brainstorming. Dad had even calculated how many sales he would need to make each hour, just as I had tried to nail down my minimum revenue. Our balancing beams between keeping a pulse in our businesses and folding had only been a couple of inches wide during our early years. Dad and I went on to create precisely what we had mapped out in our journals. We have so much more power than we give ourselves credit for. Our ability to see what is not there and bring it into being is vast and often untapped. We can trudge along day to day without being cognizant that we're always creating our future reality, passively accepting what rolls in as our destiny. I hope that by this point that you are willing to believe that journaling brings clarity to your thinking, that it connects and revs up the verbal and visual processing powers of your brain. I hope you notice that when your ideas are sketched out, it's easier to recognize gaps in your knowledge as well as see connections and false assumptions. I hope your journal becomes a great jumping off point, helping you pinpoint ideas for deeper probing, that it is a record of your evolving, thinking, and learning. I hope it helps you slow down, notice more, and develop deeper awareness that fuels informed, intentional action. I hope that you will continue to use your journal each day and fill it up. Continue to engage with the life force within you, the sacred aloha breath of creation. Exhale onto the pages what you see and seek. We are all fellow adventurers on this journey, holding our own maps as we try to find our desired destinations. What is true north for you? What do you aim for? What are you willing to declare and travel toward? Show us what you find along the way and any insider secrets or pitfalls. Lean into us for comfort, and we'll find inspiration in your vulnerability. Stand next to us at the foot of the stairs. Show us how you transmit your dreams into reality. Breathe aloha into our lungs.
Woohoo! I know you read your audiobook, but how is it to do the reading?
Much easier. Much easier.
It's good to have an
Because there are
audience.
people here.
Yeah. It's good to have an audience.
The sound engineer, he was lovely. Oh, I'll give you a little pro tip for anybody who hasn't done their audiobook yet. If you get really hung up in your head, what's really helpful is if there's noise on the other end, not noise on your end, but noise on the other end. He had some like crew of people come clean while we were recording, and it was my best session because it was like white noise in the background.
So I want to share with everybody that Susie's book Buoyant, and Laura, if you would put a link to purchase in the chat. We do want to support our authors if it fits your budget to pick up a copy of Susie's book today. The stories in here, the prose in here is just remarkable. I actually have never read a book like this. So I hope that you'll certainly give it a try. There's so many gorgeous, gorgeous stories. Susie, I'm wondering, what is the change that you want to see in the world now because this book is in it?
Well, my great hope is that we will understand that what we seek rests upon a foundation of self-trust and agency, and that the ultimate lever and fulcrum are being in alignment with our authentic selves and tapping into and expressing our creativity. That the path that the sort of story that we've been told by our culture, our entire lives, that we can overachieve our way out of burnout and that we can rest when we're dead, and that the hustle and grind culture is the way to go. I really hope that people will start to release that and understand that there's nothing but dead air there, and instead lean into remembering what brings them alive and doing more and more of that, because that's what magnetizes us to our market and makes our messaging resonant and indelible.
It's ironic, right? It's the stuff that we put off and even forget about, but it's actually the thing that those things we set aside are the things that make us more attractive to people who are interested in our services or our products, etc. I learned that from you. I learned that from you. So, Susie, I'm curious about what you might have been hearing from readers. You did share a little bit that you've been hearing from people who've been really surprised to discover how creativity can shape their life and their work life and their business. But tell me a little bit more. What's your favorite bit of feedback that you've received from a reader? And I'm not talking a review. I'm talking someone who reads it out. Yeah.
No, I've had things said to me that I never even imagined, from people who range from 18 years old to in their 80s, and they have said to me, "I'm not an entrepreneur, but you have changed my life," and they're finding a new energy and a new clarity and a new confidence to try things that they have held themselves back from, or reconnect to things that they did many years ago, but life got busy and they just put it aside. And they'll say, "Why did I ever stop doing that? That was what fueled my entire life." And I have sort of been bumbling through the last 2 decades of my life asleep. And so it just feels they are just expressing, I have more time, I have more willingness to do things where there's no certainty. I'm willing to sit in the unknown and bring the best of me to my business and to my personal life now. And then I think the young ones who are saying that life, I have not felt that life was meant for me. This world does not seem to fit me. And now I feel like I fit in it. I can find my place. And
Wow,
yeah,
that's powerful.
yeah,
And what
that's what I'm like, oh God.
it's quite gratifying, isn't it, to
It
hear from
is.
readers? You know, we talk in workshop about always putting the reader first. And then when you get to hear from readers after your book is out, oh my gosh, all that hard work. It's just the most gratifying experience to hear from authors. And I'm so glad that you're having a lot of wonderful feedback from readers. Tell me, before we move on to Gina, what's been the most surprising thing about your author journey?
I would say, you mean the writing of the book or the whole,
Any
any part of it?
point in the journey?
I think that happened to me when I was on draft number 6 or 7. And I was trying to fit together. I was getting these epiphanies and I was becoming so much more clear on how the Creative Rebels Voyage framework could be mapped into the book and vice versa. But there were skips on the record and I couldn't figure it out. And so I had all of these pieces, giant pieces of easel paper taped all over the wall. And I was in my pajamas for days talking to myself like a crazy person, trying to figure it out. And then I realized that I had forgotten sort of one of the cardinal points of the book, which is I'm not going to get there by white knuckling and furrowing my brow. I'm going to get there by taking a hike and by meditating and by getting into my journal and by doing some great creative work. And it was like a whole series of dominoes that fell when I was out on a walk, and I actually had my little pocket journal with me, and I wrote it all down. It was just like it was all right there. So that's the thing that's interesting to me, is that we're always looking outside of ourselves for what the answer is or what the path is or what we should do. And we have all of that knowledge inside of us. It's just corked. And we just need to do the inspiring work to release it.
I love that. It reminded me of something I just read about Murakami. Are you a fan of his books?
Say the name again.
Murakami. Am I
Oh,
saying
yes.
this?
Yeah.
Has a 12, part of his writing routine is a 12-mile walk every day.
I need to work up to that.
Yeah.
I do that
I
when I'm
mean,
traveling.
I think, a version of that.
5.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But Brenda Euland said that too. She said, if you're not walking at least 2 hours a day, you're not getting to the good stuff.
interesting, right? Yeah. I'm definitely not doing that. Need to work up. But I love all of the little tidbits in your book that guide us toward new and exciting ways to get to where we're going, that have nothing to do with productivity hacks or systems or anything like that. And they're just joyful romps through our own whims. That's what I love. Susie, thank you so much for sharing. I hope you'll I know you have to pause for a moment to
She's behind me and all is well.
Okay, we're talking about Susie's dog, who's maybe a little ill tonight. Well, we know that I hope you'll be here towards the end if we have time to do more chit chat. If you have questions for